Did you know how old the victim was?
Um, there was two separate victims, and after doing my uh, paperwork and everything myself and checking into my legal work and all that stuff, the age of one victim was 14, the other was 12.
A lot of what I read concerned me because you seem to be blaming the victims in your case.
I'm not.
You were the one. Can I finish, please?
I'm sorry.
So in addition to lying to them about your age, you claimed that they came on to you, yet you're sitting here today telling us you knew their ages.
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a Connecticut man who was literally caught with his pants down in the act. He lured a 12-year-old child out of her home. The police went looking for her, found his car in a parking lot. When they put their flashlights in there, he was there with his pants down. He then put up a fight. He ran. We'll go in more of the details with that arrest in the unpacking. But what's crazy about this is even though the DA was holding the royal flush, they could have thrown the book at him. And mind you, this was his second victim, a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. They still decided, the judge, they agreed to run the sentences concurrently. So he has two 20-year sentences that they can talk about, right? They can tell the press about that, but it's a gimmick. The maximum time that he's going to serve is 8 years. Now think about this. He was arrested on 7/20/2022. That's his sentencing date. He was arrested on November 8, 2021. He's already up for parole on December 9th, 2024. And then the insult to injury, in my opinion, is that the judge made it so that he only needs to register for 10 years. Now make that make sense. He was 26 years old at the time that he lured a 12-year-old out of his home, and they only consider him a risk to little ones for 10 years. On the 11th year, we know that he'll be cured. Anyways, with that, let's jump in.
Jonathan from Rosario, 427-232.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the full application for Jonathan Clement Rosario, inmate number 427-232. He is serving a sentence of 20 years suspended after 8 years, followed by 15 years of probation for 2 counts of sexual assault second and 2 counts of illegal sexual contact with the victim under 16. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of April 18, 2025. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the short-term SO program on 11/29/23. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the high range of risk for recidivism. Using the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low to moderate range. Mr. Clement Rosario, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe to be granted parole. You may begin.
Hello and good morning, and God bless you all. If you don't mind, I would like to read something that I wrote.
Please get started.
Okay. My name is Jonathan from Rosario. I'm sorry, I'm like really nervous. And I'm sharing this letter with you today with a clear mind, a humbled heart, and a deep sense of remorse. I stand before you today asking for your compassion and begging for your opportunity to return to society, not as the man I once was, but as a whole person who has learned from his mistakes and will strive to work very hard every single day to make amends for what I've done. I understand that, I am not a perfect man. I made a lot of mistakes, and I was, very bad in the choices that I've made, and I really am sorry, and I know that my sorry will not probably suffice the damages that I have done. And it was totally inappropriate.
Well, it was illegal, so.
It's very illegal, and I'm very sorry. I really am.
Okay, so Mr. Vermont, we're looking for you to share with us why you believe you deserve parole.
in my time incarcerated and just dealing with the abuse of the inmates here and the population, I've learned to understand that, it's very hard in here, and this is not the lifestyle I would like to live. It's not the lifestyle I would like to be a part of. I really do want to go out there, and I want to work very hard. I want to go back into working into the warehouse distribution.
Okay, well, we'll get into your release plan, but if you could focus your comments on why you believe you deserve parole. What have you done to address your issues that make you suitable for release?
So I've participated in church gatherings. I've done multiple mental health groups as a mentor and as a participant as well. During Cheshire, when I was in Cheshire, incarcerated there. I tried to write to several different other programs to get into them, and they also told me to be patient in my time, and it didn't defer me at that time. I still went and engaged into going to the library to further my knowledge. I engaged in conversation with the men here that are taking the Second Chance Pell program. I actually just recently got accepted into the Second Chance Pell program. I am currently working as a chairman. I have actually 3 now good work reports.
Yes, we've seen them, sir. If you're looking for them, we have already seen them.
Oh no, I just actually got another one. Last night the officer literally was like, "Hey, listen, I like how you work," and I was like, "Oh, I appreciate you, but I can't scan it in, but I have one right here. I have another one right here, and another one right here." In the last one, he did say that I do carry myself with respect and a sense of maturity. He did state that I do not give any problems in the unit, and I am a role model to my unit. I not only have I worked, I've also I like to be kind of like a voice to anyone that's in need in the facility. I do like to be compassionate to other people, and I have learned the word empathy and what it actually means, and to honestly just try to give back as much as possible. I know I was supposed to take voices, and I haven't gotten to that because I've written to them, and I've just been placed on the waiting list, and I've been waiting. I have several request forms from 2022 to now, writing to the program.
Sir, are you ready for us to begin asking you questions that we've prepared based on the documents that are available to us?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to begin with my colleague, Ms. Chan.
So, Mr. Rosario, thank you for taking the time to write the comments. I guess my first question for you is, you express a deep sense of remorse. Remorse for what?
I have remorse for engaging in sexual contact with 2 minors. It was very inappropriate. It was wrong. I should have known better, but I know now, and I will never do something like that ever again.
Did you know how old the victim was?
There was 2 separate victims, and after doing my paperwork and everything myself and checking into my legal work and all that stuff, the age of one victim was 14, the other was 12. It was wrong. It really was.
So you participated in the short-term sex offender program. So
Yes.
What did you learn?
I learned that I did have a problem with sex. I was seeking some type of recognition from a partner, and I seeked it in the wrong area, and it was under, you know, I'm sorry. I learned that, inappropriate behavior can lead to very, very bad consequences. I learned that what I have done will probably and most likely damage these young girls' lives, probably forever. I wish I could take it back. I really wish I could. I really wish I could not have hurt them. And I definitely know I probably hurt more than just them, their families. The city of Waterbury, my peers, my friends, my loved ones.
So, Mr. Rosario, were you able to identify your risk factors?
I've had struggles with alcohol in the past and smoking marijuana. I understand that that's a risk factor to me, and I know that I must stay away from that, and I have no problem with staying away from that. I do know that I at one point did have an issue with trying to seek a life partner, and seeking it in the wrong ways was probably like most likely through sex and drugs and all that stuff. And I know that I don't need that now.
Well, in terms of trying to seek a life partner, have you figured out what are the appropriate ways to go about seeking one? And can you share that with us?
No problem. I know that in order for me to actually find a life partner, she has to be of age. I know that she must have a good head on her shoulders. There must be a respect level between the both of us. There must be an understanding. And I should be fully honest to the core with that person, as well as vice versa.
What else?
I learned that, consent is the big thing. Consent is a very huge thing. And regardless of whether she wants to be consensual or not, I must respect what she wants at the end. And ultimately, it falls down to just really caring for a person, and also caring for myself as a man and individual. Because in order for me to love someone else, I must love myself.
What do you think were your personal issues that you had?
I'm sorry, the video kind of lagged.
What do you think were your personal issues that you had besides the alcohol and marijuana? And I'm referring to relationship issues.
All my life in my relationships, I've been verbally abused, physically, mentally abused. At one point, I had to admit myself into a hospital because I was being so taken advantage of that I didn't feel that I had to be around anymore. I didn't feel worthy, and just being pushed down to a level of just depression has been the baseline of me just being everywhere and doing everything inappropriately, doing everything wrong, seeking drugs, seeking an outlet. And I know that, as I stated before, in order for me to actually feel happy within myself, I must love myself, and I must accept myself for who I am in order for me to be kind and better not only for other people.
Um, so when you said you were previously verbally and physically abused by who?
I had a past relationship with a girl named Yesiara Vargas, and
Wait, I don't need the name.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was I was past abused within a relationship with a woman who who was pregnant at the time. It was not my child. And she was very hands-on abusive. She would burn me with cigarettes. She would slap me. She broke my glasses a couple of times. She would kick me out the house. And because she was pregnant, I wouldn't try to fight to petition for the apartment that I was staying in. I felt that she's a woman. Has a baby. She shouldn't be in the streets. She shouldn't have to deal with the ordeal. And I pretty much shouldered that on for as long as I could. It wasn't until I found out that she was actually cheating on me with another person and her baby father, that it really took a toll on me, because I've done everything for this girl. I paid for her to have food, her nails, her hair, to have a house over her head. I took care of her baby whenever she would leave.
So how did you do that? Because I thought you were working part-time.
So I was working at the Regal Cinemas during the time that I was in a relationship with this girl, and this was back in 2018, 2019. I was working at Regal Cinemas. And I would work from set hours, maybe to like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'd walk all the way from the mall to 200 Hill Street. And it would be an ordeal. It's a really like long walk, but I would come back and the first thing I would do is ask if they ate, if she's okay, if the baby's okay, and I would just assume my fatherly roles and my role as a man in the household, and then get ready to go to sleep, and then head out for the next day and get ready to do the next thing all over again. I did have a prior relationship before coming into jail, and she was also very abusive verbally, and
Current victim?
no, not the victim. Not the victim. I was in a prior relationship with another woman. This is later down the line. This is before the night of my offense and where I went wrong. I was with a younger lady. She was about, let's say 19 years old, about 20, I believe. And the relationship was okay. It was healthy. It wasn't really bad until I found out that she got pregnant. But it wasn't my child. Again, it was another person's child. I didn't know that it was mine or not. And she swore that it was my child. And so, I again assumed fatherly roles and took her into my home. Worked very hard. I had 2 jobs at that time where I was working at McDonald's and I was working at the car wash. And that's where things kind of spiraled out of control.
So what were you doing leading up to the current offense?
I was working. I was working at a car wash. I was just left my job at McDonald's, and I was just fully part-time at the car wash at Happy Hand Car Wash in Waterbury. And I was just working, going home, and doing everything that I could possibly do until my ex started to be very verbal, and she would start to leave the house at random times and like just really be very volatile towards me. So I started to try to seek an avenue to try to vent, and this led me to actually open up with one of the victims of my case.
How did you meet the victim?
I met one of the victims through a mutual friend, and we started to contact on Snapchat.
And then what happened?
Everything was just okay at the time. It was just conversation, and I was just venting. And after that, it went from just talking and being just like, friendly. It would start to develop into a more like intimate relationship.
When did you find out how old she was?
After I went over her house and she and I had engaged in like foreplay.
She didn't tell you before?
The second victim did tell me before, and I cut it off after talking with her and never talked to her ever again.
But you had already had a sexual relationship with her.
I had engaged in mouth-to-mouth kissing and oral sex with her, and then she told me her age, and I said, I don't want to ever talk to you ever again.
And you didn't ask her anything if she was a virgin or any of that?
During the time, yes, I had. And
You didn't have intercourse with her on separate occasions?
the only time that I actually had any type of intercourse with her was the first time we ever met, and only thing I did was, like I said, I had oral sex with her, and I inserted my finger inside her.
Well, according to the victim, you had sexual intercourse with her at least 3 or 4 times.
That was probably my other victim. I have 2 separate victims in my case.
I understand.
Mhm.
And you were how old?
I was 26 at the time. That's a humongous age bracket, and it was very, very wrong. I know. It's very disgusting.
So, for me, Mr. Fernando Rosario, I feel that you need to complete the voices code. I really do. Because it is only then I think you will understand the serious nature of what you did, the impact to the victim and the victim's family, and even your own family. Now, do you have any children?
No.
Wave your hand, Mr. Vermont. Thank you.
I was under the impression that I did have a child with my ex, but it came to find out that it wasn't my child, it was someone else's. And I went to court for it and removed my name and a guardianship from it. I know that I must complete voices to be completely OAP compliant. I do understand that wholeheartedly, but I also feel like I would benefit more from more programs outside.
Why?
I have access to more resources, and I can be able to not only take just one program, but several others, and also better counseling. I actually do want to get seek actual help with a mental health provider.
And why weren't you able to do that during your incarceration?
I've spoken out several times to be seen, to talk, to just vent, and here it's honestly just a waiting game. I don't really have, I'm at the discretion of the people in this facility. As I stated before, like I said, I have several request forms from 2022 to 2024 seeking to get into voices, seeking to get into vocational programming, just anything that I could do just to learn, abide by my time, and also gain experience so I can prepare myself much more better for when I go home.
So you didn't receive any mental health therapy while in DOC?
Mhm.
And when did that stop?
When my level was, I believe my level was dropped down, I wasn't frequently seeing my mental health provider as much. I did go through loss, and the last time I spoke to her was when I lost my best friend and like a family friend of the family, and it was hard. We spoke about it, and I understand that that person's in a better place now, and I can't fault myself. I can only just remember the good things that they brought to me, and the only things that I can actually take on to me and take into my life.
So the last time you received therapy was July of this year.
Mhm.
Did you felt the need? Did you go back and request?
After talking with my provider, it was stated that I would probably come back every month or so after. And I have not seen my provider ever since then after that. And when I needed to see my provider, I would reach out and I would be called.
So your theory now is that whatever other treatment that you feel that you need, you prefer to access it in the community. Is that what you're saying?
It would be, I feel it would be a little bit more monumental for me, because I'd be able to not only just take something similar to voices, I can also do like other programs, like maybe drug treatment programs to just stay out there, just to gain access, peer mediation. I would be able to go to groups more frequently. And basically do everything I have to do to just be a better citizen.
Okay. Well, I have no further questions for you, so thank you for answering my questions today.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Herman, Rosario, what we're doing today is making a decision about whether it's appropriate for you to finish the 8 years you have to serve out in the community on discretionary parole, and we have to make that decision in light of the interest of public safety. So there's some inconsistent information across the evaluations that we have. Are you currently in a relationship, sir?
I was in a relationship at the time. I'm no longer in a relationship no more with the girl I was speaking to. We broke up.
The question is, are you currently in a relationship
No,
with anyone?
no, not right now, no.
Okay. So do you remember having a mental health evaluation last month?
Yes, where I spoke to my provider about having a fallout with my girlfriend at the time. And I explained to her that I had an issue with like an argument that we had, and she said something wrong to me, I said something wrong to her, and we had to have a space thing, and then she didn't want to be with me no more.
Okay, in the mental health evaluation, you reported you have a girlfriend of 3 years and she is your primary support.
Yeah, she's no longer
So
part
in
of my,
November, you had a girlfriend. Do you remember being interviewed by Officer Dunkley?
yes,
When was that?
that was last month, I believe last month.
Okay, so also in November, and you reported to her that you were single.
Yeah, we broke up around that time. It was really kind of on and off kind of thing. Like she'll talk to me, but it's not more of like a girlfriend boyfriend thing anymore.
Is this Ms. Lopez you're referring to?
No, I'm not Miss Lopez. No, that was my ex before I was incarcerated. We were together before I was incarcerated. Me and her are no longer together.
So you completed the short track sex offender program, and that was November of last year.
Yes,
Okay. And then you had an evaluation by the connection in April of this year.
yes.
And when you were asked by the interviewer, when do you know when someone wants to have sex? Do you remember your answer?
I don't really remember too much. It's a while ago.
Okay, so after completing the treatment program,
Mhm.
a mere 6 months later, your answer to that question is you don't know when someone wants to have sex with you. So why don't you tell me what a definition of consent is?
The definition of consent is having a verbal agreement upon parties. Two said people can be of same sex or opposite sex agreeing upon a maybe a context of a conversation or something that must be brought to upon them by by said parties. I guess it's
I'm not
basically
even sure I could follow that. So are you saying that this is a verbal agreement between two consenting legal age adults to have sexual contact?
it wasn't.
Okay.
It was not. It was not. I was wrong, like I stated before. It was very
No, I'm asking you for your definition of consent.
consent is basically giving the person an agreement. Yes, saying yes, that this is what I would like to do.
Okay. And you can be in the middle of intimacy and change your mind, correct?
Yes, you
And you
can.
need to communicate that to your partner that you no longer want to go forward, and that
Mhm.
needs to be respected
Mhm.
under the law.
Yes.
Coercion and force to have the continuation of the sexual contact is illegal.
Mhm.
So a lot of what I read concerned me because you seem to be blaming the victims in your case.
I'm not.
You were
blaming
the one. Can I finish, please?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So in addition to lying to them about your age, you claimed that they came on to you, yet you're sitting here today telling us you knew their ages. So you have, when you finish the 8 years you have to serve of this sentence, you have 12 hanging over your head while you're out in the community doing 15 years of probation with 10 years on the sex offender registry. Are you clear on all of that?
Yeah.
Okay, and you have 2 standing criminal protective orders against you until the year 2070. Can you tell me what you understand that means?
It means I have to stay away from the people and the victims of my case and their families or anyone loved ones that they have considered their loved ones.
Okay, what does stay away mean?
It means to have no communication at all whatsoever with the
Okay, that
victims.
includes electronic,
Anything.
social media, no sending photos of yourself,
Mhm.
no reaching out to third parties, people you have in common, this person that introduced you to one of the victims.
Yes.
You said when you were interviewed that you didn't need treatment because you don't have a problem with sex. Do you understand that problem sexual behavior treatment is about the choices that you're making to violate the laws of our state and harm underage victims who are incapable of consent because of their age?
I understand, and I do not wish to engage in that anymore.
Well, if you dislike prison as much as you've told us you do, then I would think you would want to engage in some serious change. You said in your sex offender program evaluation that you received no gratification from the sexual contact with these two victims. Is that the case?
I felt horrible after.
But you were sexually gratified in the moment, or you wouldn't have continued to contact and harm them.
In the moment, it was sexual gratification, yes. After everything was said and done,
After
really,
the fact, I can appreciate that when the consequences came down, that it changed your feelings about it. So I'm looking at your evaluation, and in October of last year, they added good intentions, bad choices to your OAP. I think you really need to take that, sir. I think that could be very helpful for you learning how to think through your decision-making process. Okay, I have no more questions for you. Mr. Sosowskis?
Yeah, good morning, sir. My colleagues have asked most of the questions. There was just a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. You mentioned marijuana and alcohol, and I read the police reports, and it does appear that there was, some marijuana use, and it may have contributed to your decision-making, maybe, I don't know, but it seems to be involved a little bit. But, your drug score is really low because you kind of downplay, your problems with alcohol and drugs. I mean, you did mention if you're out in the community, you'd like to do drug treatment. But right now, I don't see that on your OAP, partly because of you're telling, your interview, it sounds like you're saying that you really don't have a drug problem or need for treatment. And then, just let me finish a little bit. When I read your pre-sentence investigation, there's more stuff about drugs in here, how you were using cocaine every 2 to 3 days, and you were in different kinds of hallucinogens to help lift you up. We haven't really touched on that, but it just seems like there's a need for that. And, my concern is sending someone back out into the community that's not, ready and suitable, hasn't addressed some of the problems that may have contributed. Not, I don't blame this all on drugs by any means, but, it's a factor, and it was mentioned in the police reports, So can you just talk about your drug use and what's going on?
So I don't participate in cocaine use or hallucinogens. I don't at all.
Have you ever done that?
No,
Why would you say that in a pre-sentence investigation?
I was probably very, very drunk at the time. I was still somewhat drunk and hungover when they were interviewing me in the police station.
I think this is done by the probation officer through the court at some point during your case, not by the policeman. But regardless, your claim today is that you were using alcohol, it sounds like, quite a bit, and marijuana.
I frequently used alcohol, and it was only in spurts whenever I was very depressed. And I've had a pattern. When I've lost my mother, I went through a spurt of drinking, and it caused me to have pancreatitis.
I read that. Yeah, and I mean, it also leads to making bad decisions. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it definitely does.
So, and that's the part that I'm concerned about, because your decision making throughout this has not been good, and we don't want you to be released in a place where you're making bad decisions again after drinking. So, but so marijuana and alcohol, and so you're saying that you've never used cocaine once every 2 or 3 days. Okay. All right. And then the other thing that I wanted to just quickly mention, because you've answered most of the stuff, is that on July 7th this year, you wrote a note to the parole officer, and you asked him, and this was good on your part, how you could be better prepared for your parole hearing. Like, what could you do to make yourself a better candidate? It's smart to say, right? So your parole officer responded to take programs and also not to get any DRs. He responded only a couple of days later. And then 2 weeks later, you received a disciplinary report in July 23rd. So I'm just trying to understand how that came about when, you just asked him what to do, and he responded, and then you do the opposite. You know, so what happened with that disciplinary report in July?
It was a disciplinary direct order, and what happened was I was in mass movement, coming back from Chow, and I just saw an old buddy of mine from the streets, and I was just like trying to tell him how I got here and how I got to the facility and stuff, and I didn't know at the time that you cannot stand on the porch area of the block in the dorm, and Officer Paulton came and he told me, and instead of giving me a letter, he gave me a Class B disciplinary direct order. It was totally my fault. I understand.
So in August, you wrote that you wanted to have the Voices program. That was in August, but you see what happens with these disciplinary reports. You get in a situation that you're not going to get programs. You know what I mean? So I know you've complained and you've been writing for programs and stuff, but some of that is your own doing with these disciplinary reports. Do you understand how that works? Yeah.
Yes.
If you want to get through this and get the programs you need and the help you need, so that you can be, you know, a citizen that lives in a community crime-free, you need to start by not getting disciplinary reports, and that way you can take the programs and you get to a place where you're ready. You know, you understand that?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you, sir.
All right. So we're done with the questions at this point. So give us just a few minutes. We're going to discuss your case and make our decision. Ms. Chance?
So today, Mr. Rosario is accepting the responsibility that he previously blamed both victims and said they lied about their age. So that was wrong.
And came on to him.
And, well, yeah, the blame about how they came on to him. And so he set up the short-term sex offender program, but was not really able to say how he benefited from the program. In looking at the connections evaluation, where Mr. Rosario said he did not need treatment because he didn't have a problem with sex, but that was after he completed the short-term sex offender program. So that kind of leads me to wonder exactly what benefits he gained from the short-term sex offender program. He was not able to give a definition of what consent means, although he said it was mutual agreement with partner. But it seemed to be a contradiction between the short-term program that he completed in 2023, the connections evaluation that they did in April of this year. In addition to that, he received the DR, as my colleague said, for disobeying a direct order in July, and did not understand the relationship between the reason why he could not participate in programs that he really needed to take because of the DR. So you were scheduled to take Voices, and then they added the good intention, bad choices. So for me, I think Mr. Fermante Rosario needs to complete the Voices, good intention, bad choices, and the addiction services program, because when I read in the PSI, you were using marijuana, alcohol, PCP, cocaine, and ecstasy. Those were all identified in the PSI. So today you're saying that, you know, occasionally you use alcohol and marijuana only when your address is contradictory to what the PSI said.
I used marijuana
Oh.
every day.
Please don't interrupt.
You need to take an addiction services program. So there was also a little bit of contradiction about your DOC mental health evaluation where you were doing individual therapy. That ended in July of 2024, but you did not reach back out if you felt the need for additional therapy. So Mr. Fermante Rosario needs to spend whatever time he has left to complete appropriate programs and really look at the seriousness of the offense and realize the serious impact to the victims. So it's a deny for me, and I don't have him coming back.
It's to deny for me as well. I just don't see that he has prepared himself to be successful out in the community. I appreciate that he wants to do programs when he's out in the community. He certainly will be required to do so. But I don't find him suitable at this time. Mr. Sosowskis?
Yeah, I agree. You know, I did hear him starting to make some changes and recognizing the damage that he's done, but he's just not, for me, at an adequate level of change, and he's not completing the proper programs. And you know, he did some of this to himself by getting these disciplinary reports. So for me, it's also denial today.
Okay. So I had nature and inadequate institution participation and evidence.
I also had poor institutional adjustment.
Me too. I had poor institutional adjustment also.
Okay. And we're not bringing him back.
Not me.
Is that correct, Mr. Sosowskis?
Yeah, I mean, he has a long time left here, right? So to 2028. It sounds like from what we're saying, we're gonna require 3 programs. One of those could be very lengthy, depending on which one they put him in for addiction services.
I was thinking June of 2026.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna need some time. So if it's gonna bring him back, it's gonna have to be a little bit of time to
Offset the,
yeah.
and that could afford at least a higher level of supervision for about a year and a half to get the problem sexual behavior program taken care of and get his start on the registry, especially because he doesn't have a sponsor.
I would agree to that.
June of 2020.
Yes.
Okay. And we'll note that you will note that you do not support that. Okay. All right. So in the matter of Jonathan Fremont Rosario, inmate number 427232, there is a motion to deny parole at this time due to the nature and circumstances of your offense, inadequate program participation and evidence of offender change, and your poor institutional adjustment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I further move that we will rehear you in June of 2026 with the recommendation that you remain free of any additional disciplinary issues and that you complete the additional programs on your OAP and meet with addiction services for an assessment to put you in a tier program. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
I know we're not supposed to vote on rehear. All right, so that's the best we could do for you, Mr. Fremont. We're going to give you another try at this in June of 2026. And we expect you to come prepared with a release plan and be able to explain how you've benefited from the programs you've completed.
This concludes the hearing for Jonathan Fremont Rosario, inmate number 42723. You're all set, Mr. Fremont.
Okay, so I'm going to read to you the report that actually details the scenario of how he was caught. And I'm happy that they have this information because oftentimes they don't. But first, let me just, unpack or digest that hearing with you that we just saw. And it's like the classic parole hearing for a fully grown man who does this to a child. They go through the different types of phases of manipulation, of trying to blame, of trying to to get sympathy from the parole board. In my opinion, there was a moment when he shed real tears, but it was only when he mentions his family, how he was a disappointment to his family. But he starts off with like, I was such a disappointment to the state of Connecticut. And then when he goes to, and then, the waterworks turns on, and we see that it's when he thinks about himself for that 1 second. But in his mind, in my opinion, he does not believe that he did anything wrong or that it's morally wrong. It's just that he got caught, and he starts to say, well, I had a living girlfriend, she got pregnant, it wasn't my baby, I was looking for attention outside, and then I got introduced to a friend and we're just talking and I was venting. And it's like, no, you're not venting, you're grooming. You are grooming. We're talking about a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. Imagine if you can get your hands on the transcripts of the conversation. It wouldn't take that much imagination. You just have to watch enough of these Predator catchers or Chris Hansen to know exactly how this conversation went and what he was doing as a full-grown, an adult male doing this to children. Now, let's just go through this report because it's actually quite interesting and funny, in the sense of how he was caught, But thank you, Sir Richard. So here's a 26-year-old man, right? Fully grown male. And he's expected to appear in court Tuesday after police linked him to an SA of a teen runaway who he communicated with through social media. Now, I do believe that this was the 12-year-old, but I'm not 100% sure. Jonathan of Walnut has remained jailed on $250,000 bond following a police investigation that followed a report of a young girl running away from home on June 25th. So June 25th, she runs away. Now, July 26th is when they write this report. The girl had stayed with someone else, then left that home after she was picked up by our prince over here in his Honda Civic. The girl had left her cell phone behind, which revealed multiple messages about sexual intercourse between him and the girl in Snapchat. And this is interesting, and I thought about this. Who leaves their phone behind of any age these days, right? And who leaves their phone behind without the lock screen on? So it's just, it's in my opinion, it's like a cry for help. She wanted someone to find that phone unlocked. I mean, that's just my opinion. It also showed a message that appeared to be from him saying, I'm here, at about 1:15 a.m. before the girl disappeared. Police immediately canvassed the area near where the girl had been reported missing and say that they found him in his Honda parked on the street right near the neighborhood. The passenger seat had been reclined and police found him. He was inside the car underneath a blanket with his shorts pulled down. So my apologies if I got some facts wrong. I said he was caught with his pants down. He was caught with his shorts down. If you can imagine, he's sitting there and the big bright flashlights come through and he's there with his shorts down, blanket on him. They literally catch him red-handed. And now it doesn't end there. He was eventually taken out of the car by officers after they say he attempted to flee and say he tried to reach for some sort of stick near the driver's side door. I wish they would have tased him. The girl was also removed from the car and later told police that she had sex with him 3 or 4 times. And one only has to assume that that's an understatement. The girl was later taken to Connecticut Children's Medical Center in Hartford. The girl's name and age has not been disclosed. We know she was either 12 or 14, but from what they say here, I do believe she was 12. He was charged with the first-degree sexual assault, which can be filed when someone engages in intercourse with a person who's younger than 13. While there are more than 2, okay. So how they caught him for the other offense, my guess would be classic police interrogation work. They get him in the interrogation room. We know how these people act when they're in that interrogation room. They just open up like a book. They're easy, with some decent skills, you can get them to say things to self-incriminate, or they would have gotten a warrant for his phone and just found the conversations. That's another way they probably did it. But we know that he had the 14-year-old and 12-year-old victim. And what frustrates me a little bit about this is great police work. They literally catch him in the act. They have the forensic information from the phones. They have, and they still only give him 2 20-year sentences, but running concurrently, it's a maximum of 8 years and only 15 years on the registry. And that, why not 15 years, 10 years on the registry. So it's like it just like, oh, so when he gets out, he's not going to all of a sudden be into 12-year-olds anymore, because it's just a 10-year period. And this is like legislation in the law. It needs to be, and I don't know if the judge could have done anything about this, because they accepted a plea deal, and I don't know if the plea deal allows for more than 10 years registry. Because what he's incarcerated for is sexual assault 2nd degree. It's not everything that he was arrested for. Because it's a plea deal. And it's a huge problem. The idea is that you need to protect potential future victims. That means once he's done with the sentence, once the 10 years are up, he's not a registered offender. So he can marry a woman with a 12-year-old stepdaughter, and that won't be a problem. I mean, just think about that. And this is something that, like, it bothers me. It bothers me that those who are put in place to protect us don't take these type of things into account. Like, they actually don't think, he's not really a predator. She was 12 and 14, he was 26. It's like they buy into his story of, well, he was lonely and they came on to him and it's not his fault, or he didn't know their age and he was having a hard time with his live-in girlfriend, so he started reaching out to others. Like, shut up. No. That's not how it works. They have him as a low to moderate risk, which is a step up. Normally, it's just straight up low risk. But, it's just 2 victims. And to think that he's caught on the first time, you have to be, I got a bridge to sell you. People don't get caught their first time. But, what do we know? We're just sheeple, right? We don't know. We don't know better. So I don't know why we're actually asking these type of questions, but it was enjoyable to see that he got denied. It's also was enjoyable to see that Miss Chance, out of all people, did not want to see him for a second time. And it's always nice to see Miss Turner kind of rail into him a little bit and get him to squirm. But hey, I do plan on doing these hearings forever, so hang in there, and we'll do a rehearing on June 26th. As long as they're publishing, I plan to be here. I really do. And thank you, Sir Richard, for providing the info. I hope he is still here with us as well, doing this work. And with that, I'll let you go.
A lot of what I read concerned me because you seem to be blaming the victims in your case.
I'm not.
You were the one. Can I finish, please?
I'm sorry.
So in addition to lying to them about your age, you claimed that they came on to you, yet you're sitting here today telling us you knew their ages. So you have, when you finish the 8 years you have to serve of this sentence, you have 12 hanging over your head while you're out in the community doing 15 years of probation with 10 years on the sex offender registry. Are you clear on all of that?